Okay, folks, we are back again. Heads up, a lot of people are probably going to be upset with my review of this movie. I picked it up at the thrift shop, and it kind of had middle-of-the-road reviews, but this movie is considered a cult classic, and it is ultra-violent, but it's almost like not shocking or disturbing to me, because if you take it for what it is, it's just kind of comical almost. But I will preface this and say that I love vampire movies, but there's a certain style of vampire movie that I like, and I just did not care for this movie overall. It was okay, but again, it's just me personally. It wasn't my style of movie. We are reviewing 1996 Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn. So the original story was written by a guy named Robert Kurtzman. He is mostly known as a special effects and makeup artist, and then he hired Tarantino to write the script for this movie. So Tarantino did the screenplay, and he is in this movie as well, alongside George Clooney. Harvey Keitel is in this movie. Cheech Marin plays like 4 or 5 different characters in this movie. 1, 2, 3, 4 characters, I believe, overall. And it's a vampire movie. So this movie has an hour and 48-minute runtime. It had a $19 million budget, and it went on to gross $59.3 million at the box office. Again, critics were kind of all over the place. This movie on Rotten Tomatoes, it only had a 63% average. And anything over IMDb, 7% to me is a high score from them. 7.2 out of 10. And 222 average people have submitted their own reviews to Google for an average of 4.1 out of 5. So people really enjoy this movie. And it wasn't necessarily the shocking violence that disturbed me, that stuff. It just because it's almost like comical. I just do not like how these vampires are. Same thing like the movie Lost Boys. They look normal sometimes, but then they like show their true selves and they look like horrifying lizard-like creatures. And so too with this movie. The vampires had almost kind of like a reptilian appearance, and it's just not my style of vampire movie. I want to say that probably if I'm thinking my favorite vampire movie is the original 70s miniseries Salem's Lot, based off the Stephen King book. And then there was another really good Sci-Fi Network's program called Van Helsing, where Van Helsing had a female Van Helsing. That was a pretty good vampire movie. They pretty much look the same overall. They don't really transform into these horrifying monsters. But again, that's their vision. And the writer was a makeup artist. And, you know, we're going back into a time where there's not really a lot of CGI, 1996. So that, I will give them A+ for that. All the costuming and makeups were really, and like the gruesomeness, all the decomposition of the bodies and the maiming and the mauling, it's all very detailed and all very well done. And again, it's mostly from a time when they were still using a lot of practical effects. Fun fact, this was one of the few movies with the budget that they had to not be a union-made film. So none of the workers on this were union. Overall, I'm going to go 2 out of 5. Again, it just wasn't my cup of tea, because I like horror movies. If you remember, this had a really high mark with me, which we reviewed the day before. But this whole slasher, like gruesome violence type of movie, it's just not for me. I watched the whole thing, almost 2 hours. The girl who plays the daughter in Christmas Vacation, she's in it. Selma Hayek is in it. I think her name is Juliette Lewis. So she's in it. It's just disturbing in some degrees, but there was also parts of it that I did like. Harvey Keitel plays a Christian minister trying to come to terms with his own Christian faith based off of the death of his wife. And even though George Clooney is a bad guy in this movie to begin with, even he's like encouraging him to re-embrace his waning faith. So there's parts of it that I liked, but overall it just like, I got to go with my initial feeling. And my wife came in and asked me, and she's like, what are you thinking? You're thinking below 3, aren't you? And I said, yeah, it's not my favorite film. And I don't know. There's other Tarantino films that I've reviewed more recently that he was a part of, but he didn't direct, that I liked a lot more, like True Romance. I reviewed that VHS copy several months ago, and his screenplay for that, and Tony Scott directed that. That was an awesome movie. But this genre, just the way they did it, and I will say Tarantino did a very good job of playing a creepy guy, because of his character was kind of a not a good guy. And much more, and he played the brother of George Clooney, which, I don't know, I can't see a relation there, but again, it's a movie, so I don't really have anything else more to add about this movie. I can see why some people like it. If this is your style of film, I can see that it's a cult classic for you. I would have been 9 years old when this movie came out in the theaters, and I couldn't even, it wasn't in my lexicon of a movie that I remember from the 90s. But that's my take. From Dusk Till Dawn. It's a gruesome Robert Rodriguez film. There's a lot of Easter eggs paying homage to some of their heroes. One of the main characters wears a Precinct 13 t-shirt, which is paying homage to John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13, which I have watched in the last couple of years, and I have a DVD copy, but I have not reviewed that. It also kind of ties in some of the other Tarantino films. They are at a motel, and he brings in to-go hamburgers, and they're from Big Kahuna Burgers, which is back to Pulp Fiction, among other things. So that's my take. Until next time, we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.